They say some storms don't move across a valley so much as choose it. And if you've ever stood on a porch while the sky stitched itself with white thread and the wind tongue-lashed the cottonwoods, you know what I mean. Before we step into the night that changed my house, my daughter and a horse with a soldier's heart. Tell me in the comments where you're watching from. And if this finds you anywhere near the ribs, hit like and subscribe so you don't miss what happens when Mercy picks a fight with the past. The thunder had been pacing all afternoon, a big cat with bad manners, and by dark the rain came in slabs that made the world simpler. Porch, yard, tree line, and the rest erased. I was sorting screws by size on the kitchen table, not because they needed sorting but because grief asks for rituals, when Lena froze in the doorway with a flashlight and a look I know too well, the one that says she's hearing something I haven't taught myself to hear yet. "Dad," she said, not loud, not scared, just certain. "There's a horse calling." The wind swallowed the word horse like it didn't believe in them. Then I heard it, thin as a penny on concrete, a strangled wicker that didn't belong to weather or coyotes or any animal that knows it's safe. I wanted to say we'd wait for morning, the way worn-out men always want morning to do their work, but she already had her slicker on and the flashlight in my palm, and I was already reaching for the old halter and a length of rope, because fatherhood is a series of decisions you make without the permission of fear. We took the creek path behind the shed, the beam sawing rain into glitter, mud clutching our boots like bad memories. By the time we crossed the culvert, the sound had sorted itself into a location, the cut bank where the county dumped riprap after last spring's flood, an ugly scar that pretends to be protection. The light found him as if he'd willed it, big, black, ribby, even in the wet, chain cinched around his chest, 2 wraps too tight and once around the neck for cruelty, a padlock bright and stupid in the beam. He had a white rook-shaped snip on his nose, a chess piece if you tilted your head, and scars that didn't belong to a pasture accident. He didn't rear, didn't lunge, didn't do anything theatrical. He stood like a soldier who'd been told to hold a doorway. "Hey, buddy," Lena said, and that hey did the thing her voice can do. It made room. He lowered his head an inch, as if a tired king had admitted there might be another move. I eased along the chain and smelled heat where metal had tried to become skin. The padlock said bolt cutters. The night said we didn't have time to drive back. I looped the rope as a soft hackamore, slid one hand under the chain to lift it off his windpipe, and felt him tremble once like the shiver that passes through a man when a morphine shot hits. "On 3, I told nobody and everybody, and braced my shoulder against the chain as if I could be a jack. It gave a hair. Lena leaned in with me, small shoulder against wet iron, and it gave more. The branch it was wrapped groaned like an old stain, and then the padlock's shackles squealed across bark. I didn't get hero strength. I got lucky with angles. The chain slipped, the horse coughed a sound that had numbers in it, and when the last loop fell he swayed and put the white rook of his nose against my chest, not asking for anything, just checking we were real. "We're going home," I told him, and even as I said it, some part of me knew home had just become a plural word. We brought him to the south bay of the barn, the one I keep too clean because sometimes order is the only door I can close. I sluiced the chain tracks with warm water and iodine while he stood with the patience of a teacher who's already forgiven your mistakes, and I trimmed the raw curls around a bullet groove on his right shoulder. The groove wasn't shallow. Whoever fired had been close, and the burn told me a suppressor had been used or the barrel had kissed him. I've seen wounds like that in places my daughter will never see. He flinched when I reached for the high neck, a tight, specific flinch that said, "Hands coming from above mean trouble," so I didn't. I worked from the shoulder down, talking about nothing that sounded like something. Weather reports, fence posts, a memory of my father folding tarps by the barn door in a storm that was all water and no lightning. When I stepped away to mix mash with butte, Lena stayed, palm pressed to the rook, breath slow on purpose. "Rook," she said, because of course she would see it, and the horse flicked an ear and accepted the name like a promotion he hadn't requested. He ate like a gentleman, slow, with gratitude rather than greed, and then stood in the red wash of the heat lamp and went somewhere inside that wasn't the storm. I was halfway through texting the sheriff, "Found horse with chain and lock stop will call in morning stop," when the first car came too fast down the county road and the second came without lights. Some facts arrive on a rhythm you don't forget. 2 taillights slid by, then went dull, then reappeared in the hedgerow where the old logging track rabbits down to the back pasture. I killed the aisle light, folded the phone, and felt my chest go quiet the way it does when the world remembers how to be a threat. I've had men come for things before. They usually start by believing you're going to be reasonable. The 3 who came through the south lot gate were dressed for weather and mischief. Oilskins, caps, that flat-footed walk you learn on gravel, and the one in front had a face built to smile at judges. He put his hands up like preachers do when they want you to think about grace. "Evening," he said into the rain, the word polished. "Animal control. We got a call about a stray." The credentials he flashed were the right size and the wrong temperature. The 2 behind him carried equipment bags with hard corners. I heard the slide of a bolt in my head even before I heard it in the dark. "We'll take him off your hands before somebody gets hurt." I didn't ask who somebody was going to be. "My daughter's asleep," I said, because lies should be partly true. "So let's keep our voices church quiet." He smiled his judge smile. "We won't bother the family." "We are the family," Lena said from behind me, because she is 12 and doesn't know how not to stand next to truth. The front man's eyes ticked past us into the barn. He saw the rook-nosed stranger, the bandages, the heat lamp. He saw the halter rope looping from a tie ring to a chest that wasn't a toy. He calculated the distance between stray and evidence, and decided to say another version. "That animal is federal property," he said now, dropping the county clerk mask. "Transferred pursuant to contract to a vendor, impounded after a theft. You'll be compensated." What he hadn't calculated was the exact shape of the scar on Rook's shoulder and the way my fingers had traced its edges 30 minutes earlier and recognized an old factory's work. The contract he wasn't naming had once paid me in sand and months. I stepped into the doorway, which was a stupid choice if you're measuring how safely you can be shot, but a perfect choice if you're measuring how clearly you want to say no. "You brought 3 men and 2 pistols and a sedation kit to rescue a stray," I said. His smile didn't move. "Stand aside." Rook blew softly, a sound like a card turned in a close game. Lena put her palm on his nose and the horse dropped his head another inch, a soldier easing toward a command he preferred. "You lost him for a reason," I said. "Maybe the horse picked a side." We stood in that seesaw a while, rain ticking the roof, the 3 men dampening with irritation. Then the lead man made a small mistake. He lifted 2 fingers toward the bag carrier on his right, a tiny order to escalate, a semaphore I had seen spoken in alleys half a world away. I didn't draw. I closed the barn door and slid the oak drop bar into the brackets I'd set 10 years ago when I thought such preparations were about coyotes. By the time they brought a pry bar to the jam, I'd dialed the sheriff. And by the time they decided they weren't paid enough to test a veteran's bedtime, 3 neighbor trucks had angled into my drive in a geometry that makes thieves reconsider theology. The men left without a coda. The sheriff arrived out of breath and full of paperwork, and I promised him video in the morning. He was still writing when the smell hit. Sweet, wrong, high and sharp, like somebody had poured accelerant on memory. The far corner of the old machine shed breathed orange at the baseboards as if a fox were sleeping under it. Wind makes a poor ally for firefighters. The first tongue of flame licked up the siding, and the second caught a feed sack I should have moved last spring. "To the house," the sheriff snapped to the neighbors, but the fire didn't want the house first. It wanted the barn. The roof shingles on the south slope had been complaining all year, and now they found a way to say final. Sparks drifted, flirted, committed. One landed on the dry rag pile by the tack room, and the world made its choice. I went stupid for 30 seconds, the way you do when adrenaline outruns sense, and then Rook shouldered me like a teammate in a crowded lane and broke the spell. "We move," I said, not yelling because horses understand sentences, and we started the choreography that you can only practice on a night you never wanted. Lena dragged the hose. I filled feed pans with water.